Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Joni Young, and today I'm going to be showing you step by step how to paint these beautiful magnolias. We're going to be working on an 11 by 14 stretched canvas that's been double primed with gesso. For a full list of colors and supplies, look below in the description box. Starting with a large blending brush, get it a little bit wet. Take some of that light grass green. And we're just going to start crisscrossing and pulling long rectangular shapes, wiggling it around, sort of just blocking in color at this point. We're going to work on our background first and then build up to those flowers. Okay, now I'm going to take some of that sap green and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the light green. And we'll start blocking in some shapes with this color now. Making a few little spheres up there in the top left corner and then pulling down. And then little wiggles to make it look blurry for the water and reflection below. So you can see I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. This helps to make it look fuzzy and blurry in the background. I'm going to take just a little bit of that white, a little bit more of the light green, and pull that into the center. Some more dark green. Maybe there's some tall blades of grass or little flower stems back there. Okay, I'm going to wash this brush off now and switch over to a small flat. I think this is a number 2. Take some white, a little bit of light ultramarine blue, and I'll start overlapping on this little sphere up here. And then add another little one right there that you can barely see, but it just breaks up all the blocking and squares. Just going to soften around in between some of these hard edges, making sure that it looks really fuzzy and soft. Okay, here's where our water line will begin. And it's sort of out of focus right in this area, so I'm going to make that look a little bit blurry. And pull and sweep in both directions with my brush, up and down and across. And then again, start wiggling my brush side to side to create those little ripples and neat patterns in the water. There's going to be a little flower stem or piece of grass back here, and then I'm going to reflect that down in the water. I'm going to build up the contrast in the water using more of the sap green. And then I've got a little bit of Mars black that I'm going to pull in with the sap green for the darkest shadows. And I'll also be using the Mars black for the branches on the magnolia tree. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull in a little bit of that Mars black with sap green. Really start to build this up now. You want to have some more depth and some more shadow and contrast. And we'll have lots of midtones too to make it look really soft and balance that out. Now I like to use a flat brush to do these ripples, but I also like to use a round brush, so kind of play it up back and forth to get a little bit of a different feel and different types of ripples in the water. But this is the one brush I tend to use for the most part in the water today. I got a new brush set and I'm trying it out today, and so far I'm really liking these brushes. I like that they have long handles. That way I can stand back a little further from the painting while I paint, which is always nice to have a bit of a distance from between you and the canvas. I'm going to build this shadow up some more and pull in a little bit more of that black with a sap green. Remember, you don't need a lot of black. It's really strong, so you just need a little bit of it and the other color you're using. Just pull and flick up. And then a few more little squiggles and ripples in the water. And right about here, I'm going to pull up a long dark line. Very watered down. Using a little bit of black, a little bit of sap green. And then I'm going to soften it slightly to make it look blurry, but it won't be as blurry as the background because we're working our way up now to the foreground. I'm just taking a little bit of that light grass green. I just want to brighten up this area a little bit more. Now let's apply some in the water. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wash that off, and I'm going to switch over to my long liner brush. Now this brush is really handy for many things. You can use it to paint long blades of grass, flower stems, ripples in the water, and in this case we're using it to paint these branches. So I've got lots of water on my brush, and then I roll it into that black, and I'm just pulling and wiggling, kind of crisscrossing. There's all these little branches and stems that are kind of intertwining and weaving around, so you don't have to be too careful. We're gonna highlight the tops of these and then add our flowers on top, so don't worry about making them look perfect. We're not really gonna even notice them when we start painting all those flower petals. You know, you want some of your branches to be a little bit thicker and then the ends of them to be a little bit thinner. So we're going to give that a good wash out, get all that black out of there. I'm going to quickly switch over to my little 1-inch flat brush and blend a little bit and soften. Okay, over to the liner brush again. I'm going to add some highlights. So I'm taking that light green and a little bit of white. Got quite a bit of paint on my brush, and I'm going to pull and roll it carefully over the 1/2 of those branches. And it's okay if you accidentally cover all of the black branch up. You can just easily go back and add more black after. Okay, now I'm going to take some of my magenta and some black, mix the two together, and add some more branches and go over some with that color. Just because red and green are complementary, so there's a lot of red in this magenta, and black sometimes can be a little bit boring, so I like to add a little bit of color wherever I can. So you can tint your black with other colors, creating more of a rich tone and making your painting just a little bit more interesting and colorful. Take more of that light ultramarine blue on a clean brush and start pulling that into the water. Again, following that same design and pattern. It's a little bit trickier with this brush. Okay, we'll wash that out and go back to black, and I'll define a few more of these branches that I might have painted over too much with a white. Okay, just finishing up with this. Take a bit more water and then wash this out. We're going to begin our flowers. Taking my large filbert brush, I think this is a number 8. So I'm going to pull in neon pink, push into that titanium white, and then on the bottom a bit of magenta. So I've got a lot on my brush, and I'm going to push, pull down, and then pull up. It's sort of a one-stroke painting technique. We'll do a little bit of this, and then I'll kind of do my own type of thing with them after. So the flower petals are going to be lighter on the ends, and then towards the bottom center part of the flower they're going to be darker. That's where you're going to have more of that magenta, neon pink, and then later on I'm going to come in and mix neon orange with a pink, and that'll look really, really pretty. I'll also be adding a highlight of white mixed with neon orange. Load my brush up again, push, pull, and pull up. Push, pull, and then let off. So filbert brush is really, really nice to have for painting flower petals. and I have many different ones, all different sizes. Same with my mop brushes, liner brushes, fan brushes. It's really a good idea to get 3 to 4 different size brushes, just because sometimes you're going to be working on a larger painting, which will require a larger brush, and sometimes you're going to paint something smaller. Now loading my brush up again, I'm going to overlap and pull, starting on the top, some of that white down. Now I'm starting to pick up a little bit of the light ultramarine blue. It'll mix with the pink, magenta, creating a light purple color. And then when I use it with a little bit of white, it'll be a really nice, soft shadow color. And that is also very complementary with the light greens that we have going on, and the light orange that we're going to be using later on too, because this blue can look blue or it can look kind of purple. So if you look on the color chart, both of those colors are complementary with green and orange. Okay, so I take lots of hot pink. And then magenta on the bottom. You want to try to make sure that the black paint and the green paint underneath is dry first. Some parts of my branches are still a little bit wet, but I kind of like the impasto impressionistic look that it's kind of giving them. It's blending a little bit, and I'm making almost like a bit of a muddy tone, but I kind of like that because you need those in-between colors. If you're using a lot of pinks and purples, it's nice to have a little bit of black to tone some of that color down. So that's kind of naturally happening on its own because it's still wet there, and I'm just going to go with that and be careful. And then when I need to start a new flower, I'll make sure that I wash my brush out in between. I'm going to flick down for a reflection in the water. Now the bottom of this flower is touching the surface of the water, so it almost looks like it's one with the water, and there's a very fine line of separation there that you can't really see. It's kind of blurred into one, and that is probably what really caught my eye when choosing this image to paint. Now magnolias are on the top of my list of favorite flowers. They're just beautiful. Adding some more of that magenta to the bottom of the flowers. Now coming in with some white. I'm going to do all those little wiggles and ripples in the water wherever it makes sense to have them. So wherever you have a flower above, you're going to try and follow that through. So sometimes I'm adding a little bit more white, and then I'll be adding straight pink. Whatever's going on in the flowers above, I'm going to try and add that to the water, including all those greens, a little bit of black, and the light ultramarine blue. Okay, let's pull in some of that neon pink right below that flower there. And we'll add some here, as well as some of that light ultramarine blue. So here I'm adding some more of the light ultramarine blue with some pink on my brush. It'll give it that really pretty soft purpley look, which I mentioned before looks quite nice with the green background. And we'll start our other flower. This one's going to be a little bit bigger. Taking more white for these soft, lighter petals. So you can see how thick the paint is on my brush. I'm using all heavy-bodied acrylics. And then pink and magenta. Barely touching the canvas. The paint is quite thick. Once the painting is dry, you'll be able to feel a texture. That's how thick it is. And that's kind of how I'm enjoying painting in the last, I'd say last couple years. When I first started painting, and maybe like many of you out there, well, I don't know, let me know in the comments below if you guys were the same when you first started painting. Did you use very thin, watered down kind of those little craft paints that come in little bottles? That's the only thing I felt comfortable with painting with. And through the years I started incorporating more and more heavy-bodied acrylics, and without even realizing it, found myself only purchasing those and using them, and now that's all I use. I think I enjoy the texture. It's really satisfying to paint and pull around the thick paint, and the color is better. There's more substance to these paints. I'm building up the shadow first here, and then I'll add some highlights. So not every flower is going to be the same, you guys. You want to think about that. The light will be, they're all facing different ways. Their petals are all going to be a little bit different, so the light will be hitting them differently. Some will be more in shadow, and depending on what's around them or above them, creating those shadows and highlights. So there I just went over and picked up a little bit of that black, so I'm washing my brush out. And I'm not freaking out. I'm going to leave that bit of black in there and work with that. It's okay. It's a mid-tone. Just adding magenta with a little bit of that black in there, but I didn't want any white, so that's why I washed my brush out first. Take some sap green now, and I want to add a bit more of a shadow, bit of a green back behind this flower in order to make the petals really stand out, because the petals are light and the background was light, so it was kind of, nothing was playing on each other, there was no contrast. So I would just tap in a little bit of those colors, and I'm gonna come back to them in a minute and kind of scumble with my brush and blend them around to make them look softer. Well, I'm really happy with how this painting is coming along. January has been a fun month of getting out of my comfort zone, which is a really good thing to do for everybody, no matter what you're doing in life. But as an artist, it helps you grow. And I haven't painted or taken the time to paint flowers in a very long time. And I had a lot of requests from you guys, so I wanted to deliver these videos for you, and in the process I really found myself enjoying it, and I hope you guys are enjoying them too. Every artist out there, and I recommend watching everybody's take on flowers. You'll learn something from each artist, and there's a lot of good channels out there. Of course I want you guys to subscribe to mine, but I'm not one of those people that's going to say only watch mine are the best. That's definitely not true. Nobody's the best. We all have something to offer to you guys. We all have something that you can learn from, and get different inspiration from. If you guys can find one thing in this video today that you didn't know before and you learned from watching this, can you leave it in a comment below for me? It's nice for me to know what different and new techniques that I'm offering you guys that you haven't seen before. I'm taking a large flat brush, a little bit of water, dabbing off the drips on a towel, and then I'm just softly flicking, making it look blurry both directions. And right here, very lightly pull and flick, just to give it that soft, blurry look of water. We have all those ripples that are closest to us in the foreground at the bottom of the painting, the bottom of the canvas, and it's not soft, so we need some more softness other than just the background. So right under these flowers, at the base of the water, we need a little, maybe like a 1-inch area there that's going to be a little bit blurry and softened. So that's why I'm not pulling all the way down. Okay, after washing that brush off, I'm going to take my little flat brush again. You guys will see me quite often using this one. I've had this brush for so many years, and honestly, it was so cheap, but it is one of my favorite brushes. I just love my little red-handled flat brush. It's gotten me through so many paintings. A little bit of that light green. You can use chartreuse green too. You could also take some cadmium yellow and mix it with sap green. It really doesn't matter. You can use almost any green you want. The only one I would suggest not using is phthalo green or viridian green, a really blue green. I don't think, I mean, it might, you could try it, but I'm not sure how that would look with these flowers. I personally like the way this more of a yellowy green looks. So I'm just taking a bit more of the light green with a bit of white. I'm going to soften this area up just a little bit. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, less is more when it comes to the background here. And then follow through with a little ripple in the water. I'm just going to finish up with this light green and white, wash my brush out. And I'll switch over to a round brush, kind of a liner brush, round brush. Either or will work. You just want a brush that's smaller and has a pointy end. So I'm going to take some white and some neon orange. This is one of my favorite parts of this painting today, was adding this color, and I wasn't going to at first, but I decided to try adding this color and seeing how it looked, and I loved it. As soon as I put the first brush stroke on there, I knew it was going to be good. Now we're just going to add a little bit more orange in some spots, and then a bit more white in others. So it's not the exact same tone every petal that we paint. And then I'll pick up a lot of color and less white right here. Just gonna barely touch the canvas, wiggle, orange and pink. Gosh, those colors are so pretty together. And then a little bit more orange right there. It's almost, I would say coral. You know, a lot of people are hesitant when it comes to neon. They think, what, I can't paint with neon, that's just way too much, it's going to look tacky or just way too bright. But you can incorporate them with other colors, or if you're a color lover like me, brighter the better. You don't have to mix them with anything, just use them full on. I just think that they're really beautiful, and if we have a paint out there that's got this, what's the word? Vibrancy to it, why not use it? So I'm just adding some more of that light ultramarine blue. And we're painting wet on wet, so it's going to naturally pick up a few of the other colors when you overlap them. And it's nice to do that so you get all those other tones and shades, making your painting even more interesting. Try and be careful around this black paint that I think is still a bit wet. And then a whole lot of orange and pink right there. Let's give our brush a good wash out and then take a little bit of light ultramarine blue, light green, and white. Add a few more ripples in the water. Another reflection right there of a petal. Some more white, and then some blue. I want to outline some of these flower petals, and maybe there's some petals behind them that have a little bit of shadow cast on them, so they're going to be that bluey color mixed with the white. I've got magenta and pink. I'm going to finish the bottom of this flower right here, and then pull up a little bit in the center of that petal. Take a little bit of sap green, a little bit of black, and there's going to be some branches that are in front of some of these flowers. I'm going to take a scoop of each green and just start dabbing and pulling for some leaves right here. I'm going to wash my brush out now. And carefully dab more of that neon pink and orange. Outline a few little petals here. I've got another tutorial coming out in the next couple days if I have enough time to do all the edits for it and voiceover. It's a autumn scene, and it's called Autumn's Magic, and it'll be a really pretty landscape with a lot of color, of course, blues, purples, pinks, turquoise, and it's of a staircase twisting and going down with like banks on the side full of beautiful foliage with all those jewel tone colors, and it's got quite a feel to it. I think you guys will really like that one, so make sure you tap the bell so you get notified every time I post a new video and you won't miss it. I know some people that subscribe to my channel are wondering why they're not seeing all my videos when I post them, and that's the reason. You need to tap that bell when you subscribe. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for watching and joining me today. I want to wish you guys happy painting, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.